Hello, this is Greg Allison with Green Regs coming to you on the 20th of September 21. Time on deck is 19:09 hours Central Daylight Time. And I'm coming to you tonight with special guest, Jason Avers. I guess that's where you said Jason, right?
Yep, that's correct. Yeah.
And Jason and I are, you might say, fellow garden gnomes or fellow garden wizards.
Yeah. we got the hats down at least and the beards.
So Jason is quite the garden expert, and he's got a lot of good knowledge to share. I'm not sure how long I can wear this hat because that's a cold weather hat. It's not cold weather here yet, although it's cooler than normal.
All right.
So I may switch back to my other vented hat in a minute. But so, ladies and gentlemen, we're here tonight to talk about gardening and talk about growing enough to feed yourselves. So I've done a lot of videos on gardening. He does a lot of videos on gardening. But Jason, he's got out and calculated how many beans to plant, and how much of this, and how many potatoes, and he's very good at that. So I think it's good to interview him. But also, this is a chance to introduce him and his channel. Jason's got a good video channel, guys, a good YouTube channel. Y'all should check him out. Subscribe to him. I'll try to put a link in here later after this show is over. I'm a big fan of him and what he does, the topics he covers. And he's also bought worms from me, and he did a neat little video, show me your hat you wore in the video.
Oh, right here. Here we go. Here's my little wizard hat. There we go.
There we go. Yeah, that's what
I got this for an office party, a lifetime ago.
Yeah, I need me one of those.
It's just it's been useful on many occasions, oddly enough.
I love it. I need one. Maybe I'll get my oldest daughter to make one. I got to do a video with her too. She just started a YouTube channel. But anyway,
nice.
So we have 24 in the room. We've got people chatting with us. So Jason, I'll let you lead away. Tell us if you've suddenly determined you've got to feed your family from your garden. How are you going to scope it out? What are you going to plant? How are you going to get ready to make sure you can actually feed your family from your garden? I think that's really crucial to know this year, considering I think we're on the verge of possibly losing grid.
This year and any other year. And unfortunately, there's not one single definite answer that I can give to that question because everybody's circumstances are going to be different. But I can help you out with some tools that you can put into your toolbox so that you can best judge for yourself how you want to go about setting up your garden situation to feed yourself. So we'll start from that point. And Mary Stolzbach is watching. That's my wife. She would be very upset with me if I did not say the following. Live from Green Country, it's Monday night, but I'm not going to answer my coffee cup.
Okay. Hey, I lost your audio for a second there.
All right, am I back?
Yeah.
Okay. All righty. Well, let's start out by asking the riddle of the Sphinx. You're familiar with that one, Greg. What is it that walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs at noon, and 3 legs in the evening? You may have run across this particular riddle in classic literature at some point in the past.
All right, let's see if the people in the chat room are getting it. Say that again, repeat it for everyone.
All right, what is it that walks on 4 legs in the morning, on 2 at noon, and 3 at night? New days, old ways of putting up Greg's daughter's channel. That's nice. I'm gonna have to go back and look at that.
Thank you for that. Nobody's getting it yet. Somebody is asking about the tsunami. I just did a video on the tsunami potential. I released that this morning or at noon today.
Yep, I just finished watching that a little while ago.
Go check that out. I talk about the island La Palma, and also talk about other potential tsunami risks like landslides sloughing off,
right.
Other volcanoes, and I talk asteroids. But then I really went in and talking some about Russia's new Poseidon.
Russia's new,
which is
really, I don't know how old it is, but
well, yeah, the actual Tsar bomb was old, but this is a new torpedo plan, the original torpedo plan. They couldn't get the torpedo far enough away from the launch boat. This one they can definitely do it. Amanda's in here. She sees Jason. That's good. So nobody's got the riddle yet. Say it one more time. Let's see if anybody gets it.
All right, here we go.
People are still joining the race.
The riddle of the Sphinx. This is a riddle from classic literature. Is what is it that goes on 4 legs in the morning, on 2 legs at noon, and on 3 at night? And I've lost audio here.
I can hear you.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, if you're watching the video, it'll throw you off.
Yeah, it will. It always does.
Let's see. What is? Oh,
See if anybody got it.
Nope, nobody yet.
Well, I'm not seeing anybody. Okay, so we'll go ahead and jump. We'll go ahead and jump ahead and give you the answer. Of course, Greg, you already know this answer, don't you?
Go ahead with it. I know it's a joke, but it's
so the answer to the riddle of Sphinx is man. It is man that goes on 4s in the morning whenever he's young. At the midpoint of his life, he's walking on 2 legs, and at old age, he's using a walking stick. And the reason that's important for this particular conversation is our dietary needs change throughout our life as we enter into different stages of our life. Young people need a lot of protein. They need a lot of protein. And they need a lot of calories. But whenever we get to the working years, we're going to be going through a lot of calories for energy to work, but we don't need as much protein. And then as we get older, more calories from carbohydrates are bad for us. We don't want to have that many calories from carbohydrates. We need calories from other sources like fat. Fat calories are good for us in our old age. So take into account what your dietary needs are going to be whenever you're thinking about how you're going to set up your garden, for one thing. What are you feeding? Are you feeding children? Are you feeding yourself? And what do you need to be eating for a proper diet? All right. That was one thing I wanted to start out with. Also, how much space do you have to work with? Very big consideration. What zone are you in? What can you grow? How much space do you have? Can you grow it? That's the second one. Third item is, are you going to eat it? Because it doesn't do you any good to grow a garden full of peanuts, which are a great source of calories and protein. But if you're allergic to peanuts, if you're not going to eat them, it didn't do you any good to grow any. So those are 3 major considerations, starting with how much space do you have to work with? An acre is about, what, 43,560 square feet. I just looked on my sheet in front of me. So 43,000 some odd feet are in an acre.
43,560 square feet. That's a number I use a lot. So
43,500. Yeah, we use it a lot. I always have it written down because I can never keep the number in my head for some reason. The average city lot is about 1/6 of that. As of 2018, the average city lot was about 1/5 of that, but the notation was they're getting smaller and smaller. So now we're looking at average lots getting smaller and smaller, about 1/6. That's about the size of the lot that I'm on. And since we're on this lot here, and the one just north of us is the mother-in-law's, which is also about 1/6. Combined together, we have a total of 1/3 of an acre to work with, which is more space than average, I guess. That's the starting point that I was using for figuring out how many people you can feed. But what you can do really varies depending upon where you're at and what you can grow.
And how you grow has a big deal, has a great deal to do with it too. Sorry, I've got a kitty come up here wanting some attention. All right. I'd be remiss if I did not talk about Three Sisters gardening method. So I'll talk about that for just a moment. For people who are familiar with the Three Sisters gardening method, this is something that's been attributed to the natives of North America, the indigenous peoples, and it's not entirely accurate. The concept was, here are the natives, we see them planting food, we see them planting corn and beans and squash all together, or corn and beans and pumpkins all together. And the thought that somebody had about this was, well, this is great because the beans are going to provide a nitrogen source for the corn as the corn is growing. They're going to trail up the corn, use the corn as the trellis, and the squash will shade out the other plants on the ground and act as a living mulch. Close, but there's a slight problem. And the slight problem is squash and pumpkins, members of the cucurbit family of plants, have tendrils that reach out and grab, so they like to climb. If you're trying to grow squash in addition to your pumpkins close by,
you're going to find that you will always have to be going out there to rescue your corn from the squash or the pumpkins, because they'll reach up, grab it, and pull it down. An alternative method would be to try a different type of ground cover other than squash. So sweet potatoes is a good choice. Peanuts would be a good choice. But this is closely adjacent to what I work with on a regular basis, which is agroforestry. A little bit different design of gardening, where we take multiple layers that occur in a forest and stack them on top of each other to maximize photosynthesis. The name of the game is get as many roots into the ground as you can, feed the soil as much as you can, and maximize the amount of photosynthesis, the amount of sunlight that you're capturing, the energy that you're capturing coming down. And that way, instead of getting one yield, you get multiple yields throughout the year. And the cumulative effect of the multiple yields becomes greater than simply growing a single crop. All right. I'm going to jump over here and check out the chat real quick, see who's with us, which I usually do after introductions. Yeah. So we got Sassafras Red here, Mary's here. We've got, who is this? Stop the Zeal, whose garden didn't do so well this year. That there's a lot of that going around. Oh yeah. I mean, the weather patterns were different, and things did not work the way we're usually used to them working. Granulana says, need some water first. There we go. Wolfman Jackal's with us. Debbie Pant. We've got all kinds of people here tonight. That's cool.
Jetty Eddie says his tomatoes are doing good.
It depends upon who you're talking to.
Right.
We've got neighbors down the road that tell us that it was a horrible year for tomatoes. And then my neighbor and I had good success with tomatoes this year. But not every tomato I grew did well. So there's that.
A lot of variables go into it. That's why gardening is art.
Right. There's so many variables. If somebody says, I'm going to go out and I'm going to start throwing some seeds in the ground, I'm going to grow a garden, I'm going to feed my family because this is the first time I've ever done it, and I've got the seed packet that I got that's guaranteed to last for 40 years, I'm going to plant these and we're going to be just fine. You're going to have a big surprise coming.
Well, I got all kind of, look, I got all kind of prepper subscribers that tell me that I got my big bang bang, that's all I need. Because I'll go out and I'll feed myself and my family for years. So I'm like, well, all that stuff's going to be gone in a few weeks because it won't last no time. So you better know how to garden. I tell them it's more to it than scratching a stick in the ground and throwing in some seeds. And then they'll argue with me about that. Oh, no, that's all we got to do. I did that last year. I had a good garden. Well, they were lucky that year, and because the bugs haven't found their garden yet, or the deer hadn't found it yet. And you don't know how your garden's going to grow year after year. Everything changes. So you've got to be adaptable and you got to pay attention to it. And there's skills that anybody that's really garden knows dang well. You got a lot of skills you've got to master to grow your garden, and you got to stay on top of it.
Right. And every so often, plant's going to throw you a little curveball, and you're going to have weather that you just did not anticipate.
Oh, hailstorms. So, you've got to know how to be flexible. And that's why you need to grow a lot more food than you actually need so you can put up food in good years for the bad years. And until you get that done, you'd be well off to go to prepwithgreg.com and get my specialist got $200 off 3 month supply of food that lasts 25 years, or the 1 month supply, you get $50 off and buy a whole bunch of these. So that's what you can do.
Now, how many total calories are in that bucket, Greg?
Well, there is 2,000 calories a day.
2,000 a day, right?
This is 14 days worth, so it's 14 times 2,000.
All right, so 14 multiplied by 2,000 for people that have got the calculators at home. That's 28,000 calories in that bucket. That one bucket, 28,000 calories. All right.
Yeah, it's lightweight because it's freeze dried, so it makes it really easy to deal with. Very easy to carry, to store. It's good stuff.
And you've got a bucket that you can use for other things whenever you're done with it too.
Exactly. A lot of other things.
You got to have things that you can put your food in that the critters can't get into it, and buckets are great.
Yeah.
We've got, I don't have one empty and ready to show. We've got these 30-gallon, well, they're about this big, right? 30-gallon white buckets that have lids that rotate and lock and then latch in place. And those are designed for storing feed for animals, but you can put your goodies in them as well, and they do a really good job of that. All right, now.
Prepper Nurse 1 uses those. I've seen them over those. He's good too. Yeah. Go ahead.
Number of calories in the bucket was 28,000. It takes 730,000 calories a year to keep a human being going at 2,000 calories a day. So a little short of 1 million calories a year is enough for one person. How are you going to get this amount of food off of your little tiny 1/6 of an acre lot, especially considering that your house was at least half of that? So really what you're only growing is 1/12 of an acre. That's about 3,630 square feet.
Well, you know, I came up with an idea to deal with that problem of the house occupying so much of your food. I got a concept for a home you grow the food on top of.
That's a good way to do it.
Yeah. We might share that here in a little bit. But,
the universal habitat concept.
Yeah, exactly. So,
all right. So if you've got 3,630 square feet to grow in, and that's all you've got, one of the first things I'd recommend that you do if you live anywhere from zone 04 all the way up to zone 10 or even further south than that, if you can grow them, is plant your big canopy tree, preferably something like a pecan, right in the middle. Oh, did we lose audio?
No, planting your what tree? I'm just trying to get
a pecan tree.
Pecan tree. Oh,
pecan tree. What was referred to by the natives as the hikun. The hikun tree. It's a relative of the hickory. And these trees are wonderful. They are slow growing, but you can count on them increasing their yield by about 3 pounds per year, and they will live longer than you will. At about 60 years or so of age, that tree will have reached a total spread of about 60 feet. That's about as far as it's going to spread, and be producing 180 pounds of nuts per year. In calories per human, for your dietary purposes, you can get close to 2,000 calories per day per pound of nuts. That's in-shell pound of nuts after they're shelled out. So hey, 180 days worth of food out of that pecan tree. Of course, we don't have.
There's another big advantage to that. Trees pull from deep down in the soil. They pull up the nutrients that gets depleted in gardens and fields, because they're pulling up the magnesium and things that are deficient in our diets today. A lot of us have heart problems like tachycardia, heart will be racing or things. I have that problem if I don't eat nuts. I find nuts get me stabilizing. If I don't eat enough nuts, my heart starts beating like a freight train. So, but stuff like that really helps, and it's really good for you. So they pulled the deep nutrients. Now you can replenish a lot of that nutrients by using wood chips or rock dust,
or just growing the trees to serve as your biomass in the first place.
Yeah.
To put the minerals from deep below in the subsoil back onto the surface where everything else can use it. Part of a dynamic system. Okay, so obviously we're not going to wait 60 years for that pecan tree to produce half of the food that we need by itself, but you can plant that tree to begin with and then work on the rest of your garden around it. And while you're waiting for that tree to become this great, big, wonderful, sheltering, beautiful thing that produces food for you every year, you're still growing other food, and you'll still grow other food after the tree has reached its maturity as well. All right, what do you grow? I did this video last year called Starving with a Garden Full of Food, and we look at what we grow. What is it that we usually think of when we think of a garden? I'd like for everybody to just take your idea of what you've got in your head of this is what a garden is supposed to look like. Take that, wad it up, and throw it in the trash can. Forget that, because most of us are thinking the wrong thing. Amen. Most of us are thinking a miniature version of what happens on a commercial farm. When you think of a garden, what do you think? Here's these rows. Here are the crops in these rows. We're going to till the soil. We're going to plant our seeds. We're going to have the plants come up. We're going to irrigate them. We're going to fertilize them. We're going to come along. We're going to get rid of the bugs with the pesticide, and we're going to grow these nice, beautiful fruits in our backyard. And you can grow a garden like that.
That's what you do.
Many people do grow gardens like that. Many people grow very successful gardens like that. The things that are usually grown in these gardens include some sweet corn, a bunch of lettuce, some tomatoes, maybe some celery, onions, carrots, beets, turnips if you're feeling adventurous. The occasional odd and end, broccoli maybe, cauliflower, possibly some squash. There we go. All these things together, whenever you are dividing them up into a 3,600 square foot garden area, although they're wonderful, they're delicious, they're nutritious, they're an excellent supplement to your diet, don't add up to 730,000 calories a year. So you're not even feeding one person off of that. And that is, of course, the essential problem that we have to address if we're going to help people survive off of what they can grow in their yards. So Now the question is, well, what do I want to grow? And why do I want to grow that? Well, you want to grow things that have lots of calories. Not only lots of calories, but preferably a good deal of protein too. Hopefully the appropriate kind of calories. If you're in your late teens, in your 20s and 30s, maybe you want more carbohydrates. But if you're older, then you're going to want more fats. And it's hard to grow fats as annual fat vegetables, not really easy to come by. This is one of the reasons why I highly stress immediately get out, put your big nut tree in, whether that's a pecan or a walnut or whatever it is. Don't stop. Go out today. Well, it's too late probably right now, but first thing in the morning, go out and get yourself a good producing nut tree. Plant that in a prominent spot in your yard. You will thank yourself. Your children will thank you. Your grandchildren will definitely thank you because they'll be getting the most benefit from it. But that takes time. How do we get there quicker? All right. So your zone.
How long does it take for the country to start producing?
How long? What now?
How old does a pecan tree have to be to start producing nuts?
It really does vary from one tree to the next. I've got 8-year-old trees here that are producing maybe 10 to 12 pounds at the moment. But at 15 years, the average is about 50 pounds. And the rule of thumb is generally about 3 pounds per year. Once they start producing, they'll accumulate an additional 3 pounds per year. So whenever they get to be extremely old trees, you can imagine the large amount of weight of nuts that can come from those. And they can get very, very old. All right. Long before then, you can plant hazelnuts and receive a crop of hazelnuts every year from hazelnut trees. It only takes about 9 years or so for a hazelnut tree to get up to production levels where it's going to be able to provide you with a good amount of nuts, up to about 15 pounds of nut meat at about 9 years of age on a hazelnut tree. That's a lot faster turnaround for things that you might want to eat whenever you get older to keep your mind active and your body healthy than waiting 40 or 50 years for your pecan trees. All right, what else do you plant in the meantime? What do you plant for annuals? All right, so annuals, if you want annuals for calories, you got a couple of different choices. You could go with wheat, corn, or potatoes. All of these are all carbohydrate. There's pretty much no fat that you can grow as an annual. Not in any reasonable quantity, at least not in temperate zones. There might be something in the tropics, I'm not sure, but I don't garden there, so I can only deal with the stuff that I'm more familiar with.
Avocados grow around here unless you got greenhouse.
Right. Now I took the time of writing down what you could probably expect to get for a harvest off of 3,600 square feet if you were planted it all in wheat. You get about 265 days worth of food at 2,000 calories a day. Not quite enough for one person. Okay. If you were planting it in corn, you could get about 500 days worth of food. That's a little bit better. Potatoes, though, are the clear winner. For temperate zones, you can get about 750 days worth of food off of a 1/12 of an acre planted in potatoes. That's a pretty good yield. But we're not going to be eating nothing but corn and nothing but wheat and nothing but potatoes. At least I don't think I could.
Not good.
Not only do you have problems with not having variety, any one sort of calamity affecting your monocrop wipes out your entire crop, and now you have nothing or nowhere near what you thought you were going to have.
Yeah, can we spell Irish potato famine?
Irish potato famine would be the perfect example. Oh, incidentally, hazelnuts planted in that same amount of space, nothing but hazelnut trees, would also give you 500 days worth of food off the hazelnut trees.
Wow.
But the only thing you have to do with the hazelnuts once you've got them established is go around and cut your firewood off of them on a regular basis and harvest your nuts when it's time. That's a lot less labor intensive than some other forms of gardening. Keep in mind, you're probably going to, if we're talking about a survival situation, you're going to have to spend some time maintaining your security. You're going to have to spend some time going out and maybe helping other people with projects, building houses, barns, infrastructure, repairing a bridge so we can do trade, other things like that. You never know what it is that you're going to have to do, but chances are you're not going to be wanting to spend all of your time at home working in your garden. So things that can take care of themselves to a certain extent are very helpful. That's why I lean heavily towards perennials. Ultimately, perennials will produce more than annuals, but it takes longer for them to get to that stage. All right, so let's see here. To make things easy, I want you to imagine for a moment you've got a square that is 3 foot on each side, 3 foot by 3 foot, so it's nine square feet total. That's, well, a little bit larger. 9 square feet total. In that 9 square foot area, you could plant corn 9 inches in from each side or from each corner. So they are spread 18 inches apart effectively. So you have 4 corn plants, 9 inches in from each corner. Around each of those corn plants, you're going to want to plant about 2 to 3 beans or leguminous plants. And then in the center of that, you would put a sweet potato slip. Start your corn in the spring whenever you can first get your seed into the ground, when the ground can be worked. Then right around the time that you get that weather change and the heat starts coming on, put in your sweet potato and put in your beans. And let the beans climb up the corn and let the sweet potato cover the ground. Since sweet potatoes don't have the little tendrils on them, they are not going to reach up and grab your corn and pull them down. But you can, if you wanted to, trail sweet potatoes up trees or other things like that. They're capable of being both ground cover and vine. So you effectively have 3 layers on top of each other with an annual crop this way. Corn being your intermediate herbaceous layer plant, beans being your vining plant, and then your sweet potatoes being a ground cover. That's 3 layers that you can capitalize on. In some cases, you can get away with planting these under other existing things, like around the border of where your pecan tree is. You can plant sweet potatoes under it. You can grow sweet potatoes under
okra and maybe combine some of these other things. But okra shade's pretty heavy.
Yeah, you can use okra. And well, if you prune off the lower leaves of your okra plant after it starts getting tall, it's not going to shade out your ground cover if you're growing peanuts on the ground or if you're growing sweet potatoes on the ground.
Okra and peanuts, that's interesting.
Okra and peanuts would be a good combination.
Yeah,
pretty good combination. All right, so
hey, I just did a calculation. If you're going to tell me how many pounds of food you're producing out of that, a 1/10 of an acre is 484 9 square foot units.
All right, yep. Yeah, I went into that. I got for a 1/12 of an acre, you're at about 403. Yeah. So you'd have about 403 9 square foot units. Now the question is, well, how much calories is that in that 3 foot by 3 foot area? This is the big question, because this makes your calculations really easy. If you look at a piece of land and go, am I going to have enough room to grow enough food for me and her and the little one there and maybe somebody else that stops by? Is that enough space? And you can break out the tape measure and measure it and go, okay, well, do I have enough?
9 square feet.
How much can you get out of that 9 square foot planted in that way? Well, from the corn, you're going to get about 780 per plant, 4 plants for a total of 3,120 calories. Wow. You guys are adding these up. Add to that about, since that's going to produce close to about 5 pounds of sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are at about 21.75 calories per ounce.
Now wait, let me say it again. How much do you get for the corn?
Corn is about 780 calories per plant, assuming you got one decent sized ear.
And you're gonna put how many plants are you gonna put in?
Put four into that square. You have 4 into that one.
3,120.
3,120. All right, there we go. Sweet potatoes. That planting a sweet potato in a 3 foot square gives you about 5 pounds of sweet potatoes on the average. Sometimes 4. It depends upon how good you are, how much fertilizer you've got in there, how loose the soil was, and of course whether or not the gophers ate it all. Because, well, this year I had the gophers eat most of it. So that's going to be variable. If you've got gopher problems, you're not going to get as good a return.
Amen. It's always an issue.
But that amount in calories is 1,740. So if we're adding together 3,120 and 1,740.
1,740.
There we go.
Plus, okay, now we got 4,860.
This is starting to look good. Now we've got the beans growing up there, and this is gonna be where things get really different depending upon where you're at, because what kind of beans are going to grow well for the kind of corn that you can grow where you're at. this is going to be different for everybody. Right now, I'm working on a vining black-eyed pea, which I don't know what the ultimate yield is going to be for it, because I've just managed to get the strain that grows well on vines, and we'll find out in the future how well it produces.
Wow.
But your yields are going to vary depending upon what you're growing. I'm estimating on the low end, I'm estimating 1,600 calories from the bean plants.
From the beans on that plot, 1,600.
1,600 from the beans in that plot. That should give us
6,460 calories.
6,460 calories in 1 9-foot square. Now, if you're trying to reach that magic number of 730,000 calories, we can now calculate how many of those 9-foot squares we need to reach that number.
Let me do a memory clear, a memory store. All right, so what is the calorie we're trying to get to, the caloric number?
We're trying to reach 730,000 calories for that. That'll give us
730,000 divided by, I'll do a memory, bring it back. Recall, divided by 6,460.
There you go.
So you need 113 9-square-foot units. So you multiply that times 9 to figure out what that is, times 9.
Right.
So you need, that's not bad, 1,000 square feet.
Right around 1,000 square feet per person is enough to grow all of the calories that you need with just 3 crops. All the calories you need.
It's 1,017, which that makes a lot of sense, because my friends, they're the Vase family in Pasadena, California. Of course, it's warmer there, but they were growing 7,000 pounds of food per year on 1/10 of an acre. And they were feeding 4 adults, and then they weren't growing their grain products, though. You get a lot of calories from grain products. They didn't grow the grain products; it was vegetables and fruit.
I imagine they were able to take the money they made from selling the fresh vegetables to get most of their other.
They lived. That's how they made their living. They actually ate from that and made their living entirely off that lot, selling what they were growing. They were growing the higher end, monetary stuff, and so they were buying the cheaper stuff in return. And they lived meager, but they're well adjusted and happy because they weren't in a rat race. Going to visit that family was awesome. So I like this. This is a good metric. So we got 1,017 calories. Excuse me, 1,017 square feet. Now, by comparison, that is, if you multiply that times 4, you come up with 4,068 square feet.
Right.
So that is, so you'd have 46. You'd have 4,650 square foot in 1/10 of an acre. So that's less than 1/10 of an acre.
Yep.
So that means you
can by the 2018 average size of a lot, that's enough for 4 people.
Yeah, you could feed a family of 4 people calorically based on that. But the cool thing is what you just mentioned. You got your starch with the corn, you got your protein with the beans, and you got your calories and a lot of other good minerals from the sweet potatoes. Yes, not to mention they're yummy. So that's a heck of a good combination. I mean, that would be squash too. You picked 3 of the most important crops. I definitely would have picked sweet potatoes and beans if I had to pick nothing else.
All right, now, Greg, do you know why the natives grew those specific 3 crops? Well, squash as well, but why those crops? Specifically, why those crops?
Well,
the real reason for Three Sisters gardening, the real reason.
Tell us.
Because all of them can keep without refrigeration, without canning, or special preservation techniques.
There you go.
If everything else fails, that is food that you can grow and you can store and rely on.
Now, see, this is the perfect prepper garden strategy. That's why I brought you on here, because I knew this is where you were going to take us. And this is exactly where I wanted to go tonight.
Yay! Now,
there you go, ladies and gentlemen. You've got the perfect combination for the prepper garden. And why squash? Now, your little summer squash don't last so long, but your winter squash does. It's a very long storable squash.
I've got one over here. Boy, there's a boy.
course, the summer squashes are fun to eat if you're gonna grow something.
This one here, of course, is a butternut squash. I
Yeah,
love butternut squash. Butternut squash has a similar nutrient profile, incidentally, to sweet potatoes. Very similar nutrient profile.
They taste a lot like too.
In some respects, yeah. I found the sweet potatoes are a little bit, I don't know, they have a bit more pungent taste or a noticeable flavor. Where do I put that fellow?
Beautiful.
Behind me. I've got one over here somewhere. Oh, here he is. I just harvested these a couple days ago. This is a 2-pound sweet potato. So off the plant that I got this out of, there was another couple of other potatoes around it. This is just the largest one of that group, but this one itself is just 2 pounds. So that's sweet potato, 2 pounds. If I keep the critters out of this, it'll keep all winter. I can start an infinite number of plants off of this in between now and then if I want to. I can make as many sweet potato slips as I want. I have a video about that, how to get your sweet potato slips started. And another method, after you've got some sweet potato slips started, how to multiply those indefinitely with cuttings. Incidentally, if you ever wanted to learn how to grow plants from cuttings, start with a sweet potato. You can almost not go wrong, and you'll learn all you need to know about getting plants started from cuttings using sweet potatoes as your training tool. I mean, really wonderful plant if you can grow it, and we can grow it in most of the United States, as far as I know. What else do I have lying around here that I could show you? I've got a little patch of peanuts up front, and I was weeding them, and I accidentally pulled off a part of the plant there, and I was rather surprised because, as you can see, it's got nuts that have formed here. Ordinarily, when the peanut grows, it puts these little tendrils down that go down into the soil, and then the nut will form at the end of the tendril. In this particular case, these were above ground because the peanuts were growing so thick that these nuts were in the shade underneath the plant. So
someone asked earlier if they could. Granny Lana asked if you can grow hazelnuts in Utah. I'm not seeing hazelnuts in this.
That might be hard.
Pretty dry up there.
You're already starting with a dry environment.
So what about Alabama? I'm not seeing hazelnuts around here. A lot of pecans, a lot of chestnuts.
You're in 8A, I think, right?
I'm grow 7. I'm in 7A.
Oh yeah, you can grow them in Alabama.
7A to be the threshold between them.
Yeah.
My Arizona farm is actually 7B. It's like one.
At least as far south as Zone 8.
Zone 8. Okay.
Maybe even 9, depending. But in areas like Utah or in the desert, you're going to have to find some way to get them water. Same as in.
Right. Well, I've seen people grow a lot of pecans, and they're real popular to grow in New Mexico.
Oh, I'll bet. Well, they have those lagoons underneath them. Keeps it nice and cool in the shade underneath the tree.
Right. Now, see, I got 40 acres in the good aquifer where I'll be in Arizona, so I could put the water to them.
Nice. Yeah. Pecans particularly, once they get going, they like to send a taproot down, hit the water table, and then they're set. They're more than happy.
Well, they're not going to hit the water table. Probably it's 200 feet down.
not out in the desert anyway.
But they can live on the supplemental water.
Right. All right. So what did we cover? We covered what you can grow, what you can get, and of course the perennial option. Oh. We were talking about the Dervase. Is it Dervase or Dervase? Or is that a
Dervase? Dervase is their name. They're Dervase.
Dervase. All right. If I understand correctly, they started out growing edible flowers.
Right. That's true.
All right. And edible flowers.
A lot of salad mixes. So you need a lot of stuff to go with the salad mix. But, like I say, they grow the high-end monetary stuff and sell it.
Well, I thought that was interesting because I like edible flowers. I love edible flowers. They're a huge part of my perennial garden plan. I start out with, early in the spring, I have violets growing. And these are woodland violets, a wild violet. The flowers are edible and the leaves are edible, and they appear early in the spring. So I have those I can pick. After the violets, I've got daylilies coming up. Himericalis fulva. Daylilies produce flowers with edible petals that are sweeter than buttercrunch lettuce.
Really?
You take that petal and you pull it across and you start eating it. It's so crisp and so full of water, and the little touch of nectar on it, if you pick it early in the morning, is delicate and sweet on your tongue. It's wonderful, and you have a salad full of those. I did a video called What's for Breakfast. It was a mini garden tour in May with What's for Breakfast. And I showed just assembling all the different things that are growing, most of them perennial, in the garden to make a salad. It's nice, colorful salad, delicious stuff. But daylilies are great. Then you start getting into a little bit later into the summer. We've got things like canna lilies, which also produce an edible flower that you can eat. There are any number of different edible flowers. Rose of Sharon, or Rose of Sharon, I think I should probably pronounce it. Will produce,
I have Rose of Sharon out here
from July into September, maybe even a little bit later, depending upon where you're at.
I've covered Rose of Sharon in one of my videos about it being an edible. It's not really wild,
but you have all these flowers that you can pick and use those instead of leaf lettuce in your salad. And you can stop planting lettuce. You don't need to plant lettuce because you've got enough growing in perennial salad greens from the beginning of the year all the way through until fall arrives, where you can pick fresh flowers and use those as your salad greens to go into your bowl. Now, what do you have to go along with it? I've grown perennial onions all around the garden, everywhere I can. Whenever I've got a little spot where I can slip a perennial onion in, I'll put in these Egyptian walking onions. They're now I can't remember what the proper name of it is. They're also called tree onions or Egyptian walking onions, but they are a perennial top-setting onion. You can either grow them and trim them back like green onions for fresh green onions, and they're still green in the middle of the winter. There's just a couple months where they die back during the winter, and a couple months where they die back in the heat of the summer. Other than that, I have them all year. Those go in there for seasoning. Then you've got any number of different fruits and berries that are growing. From early in the spring, we can have strawberries or dewberries. As we get around to the later parts of the year and into summer, we may have blackberries going. We can pull off things like cherries or other fruits to add into salad as well. So you have a source of your vitamin C. You've got your onion in there. You've got your fresh salad greens. Easy enough to grow oregano. If you're zone 7 and north, put it on the south side of your house. It'll survive the winter a lot better that way. Oregano, press oil out of your hazelnut trees. Out of your hazelnuts, press oil out of them. Hazelnut oil has an equivalent amount of oleic acid to olives. So if you're looking for a nice, healthy oil to cook with, hazelnut oil is great, especially if you have them. But if you don't have them, then you don't really have a ready source of hazelnut oil. Mix that with your own vinegar. You can very easily. Grow pears, press them for cider, make cider, and introduce a little bit of the mother of vinegar to them. And within a couple of weeks, you've got a jug full of vinegar. And probably can't hear that hiss a little bit, but we're still making vinegar in this jug. But that's I made that with a combination of pear juice, peach juice, and an extract from the redbud flower early in the spring. I took them while they were still full of nectar and competed with the bees to see who could get the most nectar out of those flowers. And then I brewed a wine with those juices together, fermented it, and then introduced the acetobacter to turn it into vinegar. Now I've got my own homemade salad vinegar. We have our own oil that we can press from the hazelnuts, and that gets you salad for at least 6 months out of the year, maybe a little bit longer.
Wow. Now, Mary asked earlier about phosphorus. What do you do for phosphorus sources? There are certain manures you can use, but mainly bone meal and pulverized rock phosphate. So how would you know you got a rock that's rich in phosphate?
Well, you could probably do an assay test on it to find out what you've got. But for the most part, you can get most of the phosphorus.
If the grid's down, most people aren't going to be able to do that. So what would be a good, just a good rule of thumb for what kind of rocks you'd look for to get good phosphorus?
I don't know off the top of my head. Thanks for asking the question.
Your wife started it.
Oh, blame it on her. Yeah, let's ask a question he's probably not prepared for. What rocks do you look for to find phosphorus? Unfortunately, most of the good sources of mineable phosphorus are running out. Yeah. Most of them are not here in the United States to begin with. This is a serious problem for agriculture in the future, because where in the world are they going to get the phosphorus that they need? They figured out how to synthesize ammonia. So they can synthetically produce ammonia. From ammonia, we can degrade and get nitrate.
I get plenty.
That's not a problem. But the other nutrients that we're going to need, including phosphorus, are in short supply.
Ammonia, nitrate. Hey, I can get that. You know, it's in my aquaponics. It comes from urine.
Oh yeah.
You did a pretty good video about that. You were talking about gunpowder, but that applies just as well to gardening, right?
Correct. Yeah. Well, the purpose of that video was to show how you could get a source of nitrate for your garden if there was no supply chain at all, none. And surprisingly enough, it might be a little bit disturbing, but inside urine there is a component called urea. For about every liter of human urine, there is about 10 grams of urea, which converts into ammonia, then to nitrate. So calculate up about, a 50-pound bag's worth of 10, 20, 10 that you flush every year, just as the liquid portion of your daily excretions. Now, of course, yes, you could take that same nitrate and use it to combine with some sort of a carbon source and pack your own rocket engines if you wanted to. But there it is. There's ways that you can get nitrogen. Of course, animals and manure are some of the best ways that you can get nitrogen. And we covered this in a video not too long ago, where I was wearing this hat talking about the livestock that I keep, because I don't keep really animals. I don't have a farm with goats and sheep, that sort of thing. I have one, well, I had one pet chicken that would run around. Something got him a while back. But I don't have those kind of farm animals, but I do have something that's producing manure for me, and that is earthworms. Since you're here on the Green Greg's channel, let's do a little quick commercial for you.
Oh, and where did you get the earthworms?
GreenGregs.com. He will send you live worms right here. And I got this package. When was this? This was 1/27/2020. It's a 4-pound package, $12.25 postage paid from. Where was this? Where's this ship from?
Tony, Alabama.
Does it say? Oh, there. Yeah, Tony, Alabama, right there. Yep. From Gregory H. Allison. There's the shipping label right there.
Well,
I kept the box. I kept the box. It has not been recycled into sheet mulch yet.
Well, the worms will love to eat that box sometime.
Oh yeah, they do. They like that. They like that cornstarch that they hold the corrugated cardboard together with. They love it.
Amen. They love that.
And one thing that I've discovered is, for substrate that you can use to keep your worms in for worm bedding, sifted wood chips make a great worm bedding, as long as you don't have too much pine in there. If you got a more,
I hate pine.
Yeah, if you got
here's what's interesting: wood chips and cardboard paper products all have chitin in them, and chitin is good for plants. So it's also it helps them resist insects. You know, a healthy plant, insects don't attack a healthy plant. The plant's got enough chitin; it really helps it. But that's also the source of, you know, the bug shell. You know, when if you spray soapy water on a stink bug, for example, what everybody calls a squash bug, if you put it directly on it, it causes its exoskeleton to dissolve enough it stops up its air ports and it dies.
Yay!
So there's a whole bunch of tips. There's a whole bunch of gardening tips all wrapped in one.
You can get a lot out of one show.
That's right. That was like automatic fire sequence of tips. Hope that don't get me banned.
One after the other, after the other, after the other. All right. So the thing that I did after I got the worms, I used wood chips to keep them in while I kept them and fed them. You'll love this part. Every week when it came time to feed the worms, I would go and I get some crushed corn. This is just basic, the feed that you feed your chickens, crushed corn. I'd throw it in a pot. I cover it up with water. I bring it up to a boil and I reduce the temps down until it was right around 80 to 90 degrees. And then at the very beginning, I inoculated that with some mycorrhizal inoculant. It's a product that you can purchase to add to your plants whenever you're planting them. This is a fungal inoculant. fungal spores of a number of different varieties of fungus species that go out and form associations at the root level with your plants. And they facilitate a whole bunch of different exchanges of nutrients and water and everything else back and forth in between the plant and the fungal network. That fungal network spreads out, connects other plants, and so on and so forth. This is very important for whenever you're trying to maximize your photosynthesis. Get every last ounce of energy that you can process, because those fungi underground act kind of like merchants or brokers, swapping nutrients back and forth in between all the different plants that are connected to their network. That's how they live, just like a merchant lives off of that little bit of excess.
If you ever open up your garden and look at, if you got a real perfect garden bed and you tear into it and look, you'll see a network, a dendritic network of these fungals, microorganisms, you said it. I'm getting tongue right now. But they form a dendritic network like nerve cells, like neurons. And that's the network along which they transport the nutrients. And they did exactly what Jason was saying. You never have a big bird flying over a forest to fertilize everything, because everything's taking place down in the soil. Good soil's living soil. Any book on organic gardening, that should be the first sentence in the first paragraph. Good soil's living soil. It should start out talking about the soil, because that is the basic fundamental. That's one thing worm tea is good for, is to help bring back living organisms into the soil. So, a lot of good bacteria will break down the nutrients to make them more readily available to the plant roots, but you need that microbial network to move the nutrients around. And a lot of people don't realize is that plants actually put sugars out through the roots to try to feed the microorganisms in the soil, because they return so much to the plant that it's worth it to do that. And what happens is they're feeding dead soil. They're wasting their sugars. That's why you want to bring the soil back to life. That's what I use worm tea and worm castings for too. And you can brew different kinds of worm teas that are optimized for the fungal and non-fungal or whatever, for whatever application you're trying to use, or a mix. I prefer a mix brew. But
because you need both the microbes, the microbiology,
right.
Bacteria and protozoa, and you also need fungi. You need all of that together, working together. So there's a lot of talk about, well, you want fungally dominance. Well, you want bacterial. For this type of crop, you want to have a good balanced mixture of everything.
Bingo.
And that includes some of your higher organisms as well. For example, the livestock that I have it's not chickens, it's not goats, it's not cattle, it's earthworms. And exactly. I feed them.
You have livestock, and so do I.
I feed them by laying thick mulch, thick organic material, wood chips specifically, over the surface of the soil. They aren't eating the wood chips. They're eating the dead fungal mycelium after the fungus has done its work, going out there and breaking down that wood mass. It leaves behind its remains, its skeletal remains, or its body that's left, and the worms can eat that. And whenever they eat that, they excrete their worm castings. This is the manure. I've discovered that after you put about 6 inches of wood chip mulch down on the ground and come back a year later, you're going to have about 1/4 to 1/2 inch of worm castings at the bottom. That's you can't buy that many worm castings. You just can't buy. Well, I suppose if you're wealthy, you could afford it, but that's a lot, and it adds up year after year as you continue to add the mulch to it. Of course, earthworms aren't the only livestock that I have that I'm not specifically tending. I have birds as well, not chickens, but other birds, chickadees, finches, occasionally wrens, the odd bluebird every now and then, or blue jay, depending. I don't really like the blue jays quite so much because they like my strawberries, and I don't want them to eat my strawberries.
Well, they're picking on them because they're red. Put out some dishes of water near your strawberry plants, and they'll do that with tomatoes too. Keep birds from picking your tomatoes, because they're really just looking for the water.
Yeah. And what I've discovered since I've invited more of these wild animals to come in, I don't welcome every wild animal, but the birds and the worms and the other pollinators that come in, these other animals are part of a functioning, healthy ecosystem. And whenever everything is properly balanced, they make sure that the pests are kept in check. And so you don't have the issues that you would have with pest vectors that you have whenever you don't allow the birds to come in. And
Bingo. Bingo.
this is a problem, of course, that commercial agriculture just can't get around, because you have to have huge, vast rows with the same crop so the machine can handle it. There's no room for the birds. There's no room for bees. There's no room for praying mantises. There's not even room for fireflies. Fireflies, oddly enough, are they're a predatory insect. The larvae of the firefly is predatory.
I've got a lot of fireflies.
In order to have fireflies, you're going to need a source of food for them. You're going to need long grass for them to climb up on because they like to perch there, and a source of water. And if you've got fireflies, then they're going to be busy helping to keep your pest insects under control.
There you go. So,
and they look
what
pretty.
I might do is plant a few sunflowers scattered around, not all together. It's scattered around because they make great perches for the birds that'll come in and eat the bugs in your garden.
Sunflowers make good purchase, and sunflowers make good food.
True, and they got a good source of oil.
Well. So we've got here a seed head for a black oil sunflower. Of course, I had sunflower seeds in my salad that I made when I said, "What's for breakfast?" And I went around and said, "Well, we've got sunflowers growing. Here's the sunflowers." So sunflower seeds became a protein source in my salad. These are also good for feeding to the birds.
Nice. I use sunflower seeds to grow microgreens from.
Oh, you know what is also good for growing microgreens? Microgreens. I can't talk to them.
Micro what?
Microgreens. Microgreens.
Greens. Like I said, greens.
All right. So here we have a little plastic baggie with 156 grams of elephant trunk amaranth seed. This is the leftovers that I didn't use last year. I took the little bits and pieces that I never bothered to winnow out, and I did a little video where it showed the winnowing. That's how much I got out of those. This year's crop, I've got probably 4 or 5 times this number of seeds at least out of it, and that's just, I allowed a couple of amaranth plants to volunteer, and I didn't uproot them. I just thinned them out to about 2 foot between each plant, and then we got seeds for microgreens. And of course, I leave a few of these out, a few of the whole plants out over the winter, and the finches and other birds can come in. They can eat a few seeds, and if they've got that resource available, if they found food whenever they needed it in my yard, they're going to remember my yard as the place that they want to be, and they want to show their children when the time comes, which means they're going to be busy feeding their young insects out of my yard as well. And that's exactly what I want.
Bingo. Oh yeah, by the way, if you're looking for a good source of seeds to get you started, most of my videos, I put a link below to a True Leaf Market, and they've got all kind of supplies for seeds, heirloom seeds, non-GMO seeds, and they're also all kind of supplies for microgreens. And I'll have a new sponsor I'm going to be using soon, another Eden's Garden, a new garden seed source I'll be adding soon, and a couple other. I'm gonna have Tractor Supply too. I'll be affiliate marketer for us. I'll be adding some.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah. So I'll be adding that in really soon into the videos here.
Well, that'll be neat because Tractor Supply is not too far away from here.
Yeah. Hey, the cool thing is you can buy things like one of those. They got a vehicle. It's kind of like a gator. What do they call it? I forget what they call their version of it. But you get to be old like me. You might need something like that to get around in.
Maybe a bit, or a good walking stick.
Well, I got one of those thanks to Randy Cummins, one of my subscribers. He gave me this one.
I got one about like that.
Yeah.
This is my Stockman's cane. Looks kind of like a shepherd's crook. It just doesn't have the little knob on the end for squashing snakes.
Well, yeah, I saw you use that cane and that hat you had earlier in your video on worms in your greenhouse.
Although mainly I use this one for tending to the trees. I can reach up and grab a limb and pull it down to where I can reach it without having to break out the ladder. So for quick jobs, that's handy. because the ladder is pretty heavy. I've got a good quality Little Giant brand ladder. Not that they're paying me to say that or anything, but it's a good quality sturdy ladder that goes up to 13 foot as a step ladder. So I can get all the way up into my fruit trees to prune the tops out if I need to.
Yeah, I want to ask if I still have worms, voice of reason. Yes, I do have worms. I'm not selling worms right now because I'm trying to get my worm herd big enough that I can reliably supply what people were buying from me without having to go to some other sources. And the other sources are really almost non-existent now. They've almost all got blue worms. So I found that to be very problematic. So I'm trying to make sure I got good worms that won't run away from you in the wintertime, the ones that I've overwintered. And they're composting worms. They're not as many reds as it used to be. I used to be a 100% red worm. Now they're more of a mix. But it's hard to find 100% red worms. I can't find a good source of them anymore. That's all I had originally. Moles wiped me out, though. That and a couple other things. And so I had to restart my worm herd at one time. And so I learned a lot of lessons from that. I cover that in some of my videos, but also I've got to breed my herd up. And I've had some issues with labor and various other things I've been trying to do. Because as many of you know, I had a wreck in April, and that really threw me behind. I tried to restart my worm cells in April, but I really wasn't ready. It just didn't work out. So I was kind of hoping to do it this fall. It's probably going to be next spring now from the looks of it. I'm just not where I really need to be yet, guys. So I will be selling worms again, but I got to get it really, really up to par where I want it to be. So that's the thing. So yeah, I will be selling worms, and I'll have worm castings. I do sell worm tea, and I can brew that like crazy. But I got to make sure I can meet the volume. I was selling 140 pounds a week at one point. And at that point, one of my other friendly competitors was only selling 100 pounds a week. She's doing 800 pounds a week right now. That's a lot. I think I'll sell until I sell about half my herd, then I'll shut down sales. That's how I'll do it in the future. And then we'll just start it back when I got them bred back. And I think that'll be like, and I'm sizing my farm here so I can sell about 100 pounds a week, basically. And if I go to Arizona, I can do far better because I got a lot more room there. So that's what I'll be aiming at. And if I sell over 100 pounds a week, I'll just have to shut it off at some point. If I can, that's a lot of worms to process, though. That's a lot of work. That's intense, very intense, extremely intense on the harvest days. Eat garlic, it will deworm you. Yeah, Granny, I grow garlic and I grow turmeric, but my turmeric crop, I lost a lot of what I tried to save over the winter because my peat moss was too dry and it just deteriorated. So,
dried out.
So I should have had a little more moisture in my peat moss. I didn't.
That's the thing I discovered this past winter too, is turmeric and ginger will both dry out.
Yeah.
Over the winter if you're not keeping an eye on your moisture content.
That's what I did. Now I lost a lot of my turmeric crops, so I've got a replenishment crop growing. So I do sell some garlic, and I may eventually do mail order on some of that stuff too. Postage costs are just so high, though, it makes it really hard. I have sold turmeric via postage. In fact, one of the ladies in our chat room tonight, New Days Always, bought turmeric from me that way, and probably a couple of others. So I have actually sold and shipped turmeric. One of these days, I'll be adding that all in my on my website, and I'll probably even add garden products, stuff that you can use in your garden, to my website eventually. So I'm beginning to get some new affiliate marketing arrangements, and some of that will be reflected through the website, greengregs.com, some through here. Everybody's been begging me to do t-shirts. I have to come up with some underwear too. What you got there?
Hey, I got one.
There you go. Yeah, you got yours. I hadn't done that yet, but I need to.
So this is the corn that I grew this year.
Oh,
and as close to that camera as I can. I hope that light can capture that.
That's beautiful.
Those kernels are speckled purple and white.
Beautiful.
So this is one of the small side ears. They do get quite a bit bigger, usually about that long or so for the regular. But this is one of the little side ears that grow off the side of the corn plant. There were a lot of side ears this year, but this is called Big Horse Spotted Corn. It's somewhere in between flint corn and dent corn. It has both tendencies, and it comes in a variety of different colors as well, not just this purple and white, but purple and white is what I'm really interested in getting. Oh, that did come out good. I can see it on the YouTube replay there. Okay, so this corn is about as close as possible to the original corn as I can find. If you were looking for good genetic diversity in your corn, if you don't want inbreeding depression in your corn, big horse spotted corn is excellent for that. There's 8-row, 12-row, 10-row, 14-row, white kernels, purple kernels, blue kernels, red kernels, orange kernels, even occasional yellow kernels. Every kind of corn that you want, you can selective breed out of this corn, which means inbreeding depression is not a problem. Of course, that could be the difference between having it and not having it at some point in the future. So I'm going to be trying to grow a lot of this in the future for sale as seed. Right now, you can get it at Bacon Creek until they sell out, which will probably happen sometime tonight.
Now what is that? What is that called? That particular variety?
Big horse spotted corn.
Big horse
Spotted corn.
Corn.
It was grown by the Osage Nation here in northeastern Oklahoma for thousands of years before the Europeans ever got here, and they got it presumably from a little bit further east at from the Mississippian culture, the people who built the mounds up there in Illinois. I don't know exactly what their corn looked like. That's the closest relative of it that I can find. So as close as possible to the original corn is that thing that I'm growing. That's around 780 calories a plant.
That's beautiful.
It's very, very pretty. It's almost a shame to have to eat it because it's so pretty, but
you know, the farm I grew up on had rocks, some big flat sand rocks that had depressions on them, and I always thought those depressions were the Indians stuck, and they had a pestle and they ground up their corn.
Yeah, or a nice long round rock that you can push across there. Yep, there's another way to get your corn ground up though, and that's starting out with nixtamalization. That's taking a lye solution, not a strong lye solution, but strong enough. You can either leach that out of wood ashes, or you can use calcium carbonate, roast a little limestone, and once you've got that, you soak your corn, your dry field corn, in that overnight or longer, however long it takes, for it to let that outer shell, the pericarp, split and come off. It'll swell up the kernels of corn and start breaking down the protein chains in your corn to make them more digestible for you and me. Once you've got it rinsed out really well and you're ready to proceed, you can get a device like this, this is called a China cap. So it comes
called a
China cap. You might have seen Grandma using this to make tomato sauce.
I got one upstairs.
Okay, you got one upstairs. This one also has a little stand on it. So
I never knew it was called that.
it's called a China cap. All right.
I got one upstairs. Had one for years.
And then you've got the little vessel there, and you just squash your corn, your hominy.
Hominy. That's what
right on through the screen here. And now you've got a mush, which you can take and add a little bit of salt and baking soda and lard to, and cook up your tortillas or your cornbread or whatever you want to make with it.
Yum.
You can also dry it out and use it as a dried cornmeal flour for later use. Either way, this corn or any other field corn or dent corn, once you've got it dried, just keep the critters out of it, and you can have this all winter too, without refrigeration.
Corn, taters, and winter squash. Yeah, the pumpkins and such. Yeah, they keep a long time.
Yeah, sweet potatoes, winter squash, a little bit of good dry corn. It'll take you all the way through a hard winter.
There you go.
And then if you want something fresh and green to go on your plate in the middle of winter, well, can't go wrong. Growing a couple of amaranth plants outside, saving your seeds, and these, I don't know, you've been making microgreens for a while, about 150 grams. How much microgreens do you get out of that?
Well, my red amaranth grows probably smaller than anything. I just cut by area. I don't measure the weight on it.
Don't measure how much weight of seed you've got going in there.
Well, I will put about, that's a small seed. The amaranth seed
is
small. So it doesn't take but about a teaspoon to fill up a 10 by 20 flat for those. The other seeds like radish might take 3 tablespoons, but it don't take a whole lot, maybe 1 tablespoon to fill up a 10 by 20 flat. And you're going to have these little greens pop up. Now they're smaller than a lot of other greens, at least when they start out, at least the red amaranth is.
That's probably at least maybe 30 flats or so.
But you know, amaranth is actually a high protein green.
Yeah, it is.
It's a high protein green. So if you're a vegetarian, you need protein. That's one thing that it really helps with.
Yep. Some other things that have a lot of protein in them that you can be growing around. That the average, let's say, wandering person that wants to take things that don't belong to them would not recognize as food. Canna lilies.
There you go.
Daylilies. The early shoots of the canna lily, well, not necessarily daylilies, but the early shoots of the canna lily are also very, very high in protein. Just cut those up as they're starting to come up out of the ground. You can keep those in the ground over winter in zone 7A and 7B, I believe, depending upon where you're at. Much further north, and you might want to pull them up in the fall and keep them on peat moss, like you would keep your ginger or your turmeric root.
A good in myself. Oh, I got too much feedback. Prepper garden is garlic, turmeric, and hot peppers.
Well, true.
People want to sit down and chew on and make a meal out of hot peppers. They don't know what to do with garlic or turmeric. So right. they're good for trade with people who are exploring other stuff.
or they come along and they see that you've got a lot of pretty flowers growing and a few trees and shrubs, and they look around and go, "Well, I don't see the garden." Well, I see a garden, but I don't see the garden. And what they're looking at were violets, and they were looking at maybe some perennial onions, garlic, and things of that nature. They might have seen a couple of berry bushes here and there, and canna lilies, and other things, Rosa Sharon, fruit trees and nut trees. And then they walk by and they go, well, if maybe they might identify that that's an apple tree or that's a pear tree. But of course, it's not the right time of year. They can't get pears. And they're walking on. They walk right by your food. Your food's still there. You go out, you harvest it when it's time. You have the advantage because you're there and you can be there to harvest it when it's time. If you're not there to harvest it when it's time, you didn't get it. It's just food that's there to pick and eat. It's always there for you.
And it helps to supplement your garden with knowledge of wild edibles. I cover a lot of that, but I'm not sure wild edibles is sufficient to meet your caloric, fat, and protein needs. It can definitely cover your green needs, but if you need greens in the wintertime in this area of the country, chickweed grows all winter long around here.
Yeah.
It's a good winter green. You don't eat too much of it because it's high oxalic acid. But
chickweed is good. Shepherd's purse is high in calories. Just don't eat too much because it's a sedative. It'll make you feel a little bit groggy if you eat too much, but very high in calories. Shepherd's purse is. Both of your dead nettles that you typically see in the South. Well, I think
purple
Lamium purpurea, which is purple dead nettle, and then Lamium amplexical, which is the henbit dead nettle. They look similar and they're usually found together. They're both edible and in abundance, and often in the winter you can find them.
But they're very furry, so if you just chew it up and swallow it, it's liable to get stuck in your throat. So you might want to juice it or grind it up before you eat it.
Wilt it down or stir fry it maybe.
Yeah, stir fry would be great. That would be a great way to do it. And they're actually in the mint family, so they're very flavorful.
You can tell they're in the mint family by looking at a cross section of the stem. The stems are square
stems. Mints have square stems, and it puts out a leaf like this and a leaf like this, a leaf like this. They cross each other. Yeah, that's a mint.
There's a little peppermint.
Yeah, but the leaves cross each other. Alternate pairs. They grow in pairs and they grow cross from each other. Every successive growth. So that's how you can tell mints. And only mints do that. All mints are edible. And there's just many plants in the mint family, all kind of spices. You mentioned oregano earlier. It's in the mint family. And oregano oil of oregano is a strong antibacterial and antiviral, and people need to know stuff like that for health.
And I think now's probably a good time for a little mail opening, because I got something that Mary said. Mary, move this up. Oh, we've got a package.
Oh boy.
Hopefully this is it.
What is that?
It might be. It might be. All right, here we go. This is essential oil, Oreganum vulgare.
Wow, what a great segue.
What? This is a bottle of essential oil of oregano.
Wow.
Not cheap, because it's a pure essential oil, and it's not been adulterated with olive oil or.
This is one of the things Jason does a lot on his channel. He opens mail.
Well, during the live sessions.
Yeah, I've seen you do that a few times. Yeah.
We can get the package to open here. They wrapped it tight. All right.
Whoa, New Days Old Way says nettles is the natural Viagra, so be careful. You may bite off more than you can use.
Oh my goodness.
That's good to know. Hey, you know, watermelon is kind of like that too.
Well, don't discount the value of substances which enhance blood flow in association with medicinal applications. So
how do we preserve dead nettle there, New Days Old Ways? She's the herbalist in our group here. She is a master herbalist.
Well, dead nettle, are we talking about dead nettle, or are we talking about stinging nettle?
I don't know. We don't need stinging nettle going around here. I haven't seen that, but
I need to get some actually.
Oddly, a lot of dead nettle.
I want stinging nettle in my garden.
Yeah, it's considered the most nutritious plant on earth.
Very nutritious, and the little tiny micro needles of it stimulate and help treat arthritis symptoms in hands, joints, elbows, etc. So you touch yourself with that, and it can remove the stiffness and the inflammation. All right, so here we go. This is from Gaia Labs, essential oil of oregano. Here's the little bottle. Now, I've got something to go along with this. Hopefully we won't get in trouble for mentioning it.
Wise Al says, great topic.
Oh, there it is. There you are. Okay, here we go. Mary also ordered up another couple little useful items. This is a humidifier, or a very small humidifier, personal USB chargeable humidifier. Produces a mist of water vapor. So I got a little water in here. But now imagine for a moment, you've got some sort of a bacterial, not viral, but bacterial infection in your upper respiratory tract or in your lungs. And this may be something that's maybe resistant to antibiotics. And you're having some serious issues, because if you can't stop this infection, it may kill you. We're talking about like tuberculosis, pneumococcal pneumonia, influenza, perhaps. No, that's viral, right?
Yeah, that's viral.
That's viral. That's probably not going to help you with influenza, probably.
So what do you put in it?
So I'm taking a couple drops of the essential oil of oregano, putting it into the atomizer with a bit of the water.
Okay.
All right. Now,
actually, oil oregano is antiviral, from what I hear.
Now, how concentrated you need to have this is going to be, experiment with your atomizer until you get the right concentration. But once you start producing this, you can inhale the atomized oil of oregano or other thymol. This is the active ingredient is called thymol. It's found in thyme, also in bee balm and a few other plants, but it's very concentrated in oregano. This is why we got the oil of oregano. It's easier to find than oil of thyme. Inhale this in. And now that oil of oregano, tiny particles, will be in the lungs, directly affecting bacteria on contact. Don't put too much in there. You don't want to be sucking pure oil of oregano down your windpipe.
That would be rough.
But in diluted quantities, this gets rid of the bacteria in your lungs and in your respiratory tract system. So there's a little something that, I'm not a licensed physician. This advice on herbal medicines should not be construed to be medical advice.
Amen.
I have to state that disclaimer there.
Yeah, you know what? Every time I do an herbal video, I used to say
You have to tell people.
We're getting in danger here. I'm not saying it, so thank you. Yeah,
You got to say that part.
Everybody's got to know that anytime you come to a plant, you need to know that you need to consult a local expert on your plant to make sure that it is the plant you think it is. Because there are plants that will deceive you. There are some plants that are good and good for you, and some plants will make you sick, and some may even kill you. And the other disclaimer is that everything we're doing here for advice is just interest and information. It's not to be
entertainment purposes.
Yeah, for entertainment purposes. It's not to be taken as a medical device. Consult your physician for any medical advice that you may need.
There you go.
Bang, there we go. I think it gets dangerously close to the right kind of. But all this stuff is entertaining.
But of course, you can grow your oregano, your bee balm, or your thyme in your garden, and that is a very effective. At least according to the people that sell it commercially, anyway, an effective antiseptic, because you'll find thymol is one of the 4 ingredients in the over-the-counter preparation Listerine. Thymol, menthol salicylate. What else is in there? Thymol, menthol, methyl salicylate, and eucalyptol. Those are the 4 essential oils that are in Listerine. So the only one of those I'm currently not growing is eucalyptol. I tried growing a eucalyptus tree and it didn't make it, so I'll have to try again next year. The nursery that sells them here in the States only gets a few every year, and I had my one shot. It didn't take this year, so I'll have to try again next year.
Well, so we got to ask some Aussies, what's the secret to growing eucalyptus?
Well, it's from the southern hemisphere, and the time of year that we got it, they're going into their dry season. Yeah. And time of year was they're going into their wet season, not the dry season. Just coming out of dormancy now, while they were still dormant. It's evergreen, so it's never really truly dormant.
We're going to autumn. They're going into spring right now.
It's not the right season for them. It got confused. I think the next time I try growing a eucalyptus tree, I'm going to get it and then keep it indoors until the appropriate season, then transplant it out, and hopefully that'll keep it from getting confused.
Between us two visitors, we should have done this show on Wednesday because that's the equinox, right? Or tomorrow.
That's 2 days from now.
Yeah, I think that's the equinox. The 22nd usually is. So, but anyway, so this is Equinox Eve.
Equinox Eve. Here we go.
There you go. Or whatever that's not worth.
So did I cover everything? Oh, I didn't cover something. There was something I didn't cover. Do we have time?
Sure.
All right. So a lot of folks are out there thinking, hey, let's get some chickens and put them in the backyard, or let's get some animals and put them in the backyard. That sounds like a good way to have, some more protein around, more calories and protein. Eggs are good. We get a few chickens, we'll have a few eggs every day. That sounds great. There is, of course, a problem if this is backyard gardening, if you live in the city. And that, of course, is the supply chain. Where are you going to get the feed for them? If you were to be running chickens and letting them roam where they want to, eat what they want to, they can feed themselves, but the number of chickens that you have is going to be limited by the space that you have for them to run around in and how much food is available. Probably still going to have to give them some feed during the lean year, or not years, lean parts of the year. About 36 chickens per acre is a good number to free range and eat all the bugs that they want. There's enough bugs on 1 acre that 36 chickens can feed themselves as much as they want. But beyond that, you're going to have to start supplementing with feed on a regular basis. Interesting.
Well, I did see a video on Justin Rhodes' show where a guy had his huge wood chip piles.
I saw that one.
And that's what his chickens scratch the bugs out of and live from those wood chip piles. So
yeah, he created an environment that would feed the chickens, which was really nice.
Yeah.
Really
and
nice.
later you can use those wood chips in your worm beds and then in your garden.
Exactly.
So that's that's like a triple use product there. And I got an orchard. I need to be putting wood chips in real heavy if I can just get all the sub level stuff growing in and out.
Now, without using some sort of system like that we saw on the Justin Rhodes show, good video, incidentally, for the people that haven't gone and seen it, it was really good. If you don't have a system like that, and you're having to import feed for your chickens, here's the chicken math. It takes about a quarter pound of grain a day to feed a chicken to produce an egg a day, average. Maybe 80% of the time, the chicken's going to make an egg. A quarter pound of grain per day. To grow that much grain takes 450 square feet. So for every chicken that you've got 450 square feet of nothing but growing food for that chicken.
Wow.
Otherwise, you don't have enough room to grow that chicken on your property. You're having to be dependent on someone else to produce that for you, which means you're going to have something to trade to get that grain. So the chicken can be a part of an overall self-sufficient system, but you either have to know where you're going to get your feed from or be growing the feed for it, one of the two. Either you've got your huge wood chip pile or other composting setup that the chickens can turn over on a regular basis to feed themselves, or you're growing the grain for them. So you're limiting the numbers so that you've got 36 per acre so they can free range, or you're going to have to find something to barter with, trade with. That could be money, it could be something else to get the grain.
I do have rabbits. I could, for the most part, feed them weeds, but baby rabbits can't eat greens. You got to have something dried hay or something for the feed when you get baby rabbits. Those greens will give them the runs, make them sick and die. A lot of people don't realize that. So my livestock consists of rabbits, fish, and worms. That is my full complement of livestock on Green Greg's farm. And some of my fish are at risk right now because somebody stepped on one of my pipes that is the drain pipe from my aquaponics 5,000 gallon tank. And it's leaking, so I got to let it leak down enough to almost completely out to be able to seal that back up. And I can't run my pump. I may lose my fish in this process. I hope not. But my fish are at risk. My whole the bacteria that I'm needing for my aquaponics system are at risk. You mentioned earlier about making nitrogen from urine. Basically, talk about the nitrogen. Yeah. The nitrogen cycle is the fish produce ammonia right out of their skin. Their urine is mostly ammonia. Autotrophic bacteria break their poop down into ammonia and minerals. You have a bacteria called a nitrosamona that breaks ammonia down and turns that into nitrite. And then you have another class of bacteria called nitrobacters that turn nitrite into nitrate. Ammonia, nitrite, and nitrate are really all toxic to fish, except the plants take up the minerals and the nitrate. So by having autotrophic bacteria, nitrosomonas, nitrobacters, and plants and fish, you got a closed nitrogen cycle, and it's perfect for growing. But
as long as you can keep it cycling.
Right. And it may be hard to establish at first to get all this stuff balanced out, especially with a big system like that. My problems is I've had too many people come along and try to help me, and they filled it up with chlorinated water and wiped everything out a few times. But I got a well in the back to stop that now. But then I didn't really plan on somebody coming out and stepping on my plumbing and breaking it. So it's always something. It's always something.
I should probably point out as a caveat, if you ever see me playing around with my garden hose and I'm watering with the garden hose, keep in mind, I am probably about 3 or 4 weeks away from the water treatment plant as far as the water flowing through the system goes. By the time it gets to me, it has almost no chloramine left in it. Well, that's the only reason I can get away with doing it, because if I was any closer, then I could wind up killing off my microbiology in the soil.
People sell filters to help with that, but they're not 100% effective. They do help, but they're not 100% effective.
If you're having to use city water, you really have to take it, decant it, and have it sitting around to let it gas out over time, and take a while to get those chemicals out, so they don't kill the bacteria that you want to have.
I've got a lot of those decanting containers around my place for watering worms and putting in my aquaponics. But now if you can blow air into it, it makes it go faster. It'll make that process work a lot faster, like maybe overnight, whereas it could be like a week or two otherwise, depending on how strong the chemicals are in the water. So, all right, that we've covered a lot of topics tonight. We've covered a lot of ground, but oh yeah, one other thing to kind of complete this. So Jason told you what you need to do to calculate the kind of food you need to grow for the most part. And the other thing is that if you're going to live off grid and you know that we're talking about a time that you can't go to the stores, this is where the worm farm really comes in handy, because the worm castings makes your fertilizer and worm tea. Now, if you don't have power at all, worm tea would have to be made by you have to pour it back and forth a lot to get the oxygen in it, but you can make worm tea that way. But worm tea is an all natural liquid pest repellent and fertilizer, but you can spray it on the leaves and it will help fight a lot of your molds, mildews, rust, a lot of your soft body bugs, and a lot of your worms. If you can find a good source of BT, that will help with the worms too. That's the bacteria thuringiensis. I don't know if you had any experience with growing any of the bacterium thuringiensis.
I've never tried to culture BT before. I know it's got to be done because there are people who do it, but it's I haven't attempted it myself.
Yeah, that's a good thing to consider. Susie Q is asking about the nebulizer. She wants to know where you get the nebulizer.
Mary, if she's still in the chat, she could tell you where she got it. She ordered it off of Amazon. That's all I know.
Okay, so maybe Mary can bring that up. I haven't seen her in a little bit. Is she still in the chat?
That's a nice little one. She got another one here that's a bit bigger. And this is marketed as a humidifier, which it's will accomplish the same thing.
Yeah,
a larger vessel.
Yeah,
and just put that down there and hit the button and inhale. I don't think, no, it's not charged. She got that one. She's also, you could use little spray misters if they can get a fine enough mist. You can use those.
Very good. So yeah, I guess you could search Amazon to find this stuff. I guess Mary's out. I hadn't seen her chatting here in a little bit.
She's out on the road, so there's no telling. She might have just stopped for a minute to say hi and then pulled out and got on the road again.
Yeah, Christy Battlehorn, Child of God, says, how long do you have to let the water sit out? You get the chemicals out. If you're just letting it sit out passively, I'd say, well, if it's a small container, like on your desktop, overnight, but a really big container, probably a week or two, depending on how big the container is. But if you can blow a lot of air into it with a big air pump, it'll degas that stuff overnight. So a lead deficiency in the garden will lead to crop loss. Why? From deer?
Deer, rabbit, squirrels,
groundhogs. Talking about. Yeah, deer love to eat my sweet potatoes. They really tear them up. All right. Well, we've covered a lot of ground tonight. We've been going for about an hour and a half, I believe, here, maybe a little better. So we probably want to give it if we go too long, people want to watch it later. Right. So we've covered a lot of good material, and maybe we'll have to pick a topic and come back. Everybody, Jason Avers has a channel of his own. I wish your wife was here. She could put it in the chat room. You got the chat room open. Go ahead and enter your. Well, I'm going to enter your address. Let me see.
Let me grab it real quick. Incidentally, I was thinking about announcing this come Wednesday because I do have a live stream every Wednesday, but I may as well mention it now. I'm about to change the channel name. Right now, I'm just going under my name, Jason Avers, for the channel name, but I'm contemplating changing the channel name to Green Country Agroforestry, which is will match the. It'll match the business name, which is Green Country Agroforestry. Where,
do me a favor, say something in the chat. Are you a mod on my channel?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, then you can enter your URL directly to your channel. But as I'm out adding nutrients back to the soil, yes, it is. All rock minerals are good for that. Azomite is a particularly known good source for minerals. So azomite will add the minerals back into your soil. That type of nutrient, that's one thing you need. You need a lot of different things though. So just go ahead and add your channel link into the chat session, and I'll try to add it later into the notes. Okay, New Days Always is taking care of it for you there, Jason.
Oh, did he? Okay.
She's been good.
I got that.
All right, so very good. So what do you know about Japanese knotweed composting? Vicky Savage asked about that. I don't know.
There we go.
There you go. I see you got it in there pretty good. I was about to say, if you weren't a mod, I'd make you a mod. I thought you were, so good. Yeah. So good. All right. So, guys, that's it. Now you know the how to calculate the calories you can grow, how to get the right calories, and with the crops he mentioned, you got a pretty good balance because you got the proteins from the beans, you got the carbs and a lot of nutrients with sweet potatoes, and you get the starches from the corn. All three are long-term storable crops. And so we've just covered tonight how to get the calories out of it, how to calculate it, and the fact that you can, on a tenth of an acre, more than feed a family of four with this. So it's, because it just takes 1,017 square feet to feed a person with that approach. If your crops all produce and something don't come along and eat them, and if it don't get beat down by a hailstorm. But that's why you really need to grow a little bit more so you can put up and save.
Grow a variety of different things. Don't just make it those three things and nothing but those three things.
Exactly. I grow a variety.
Any number of events can occur that's going to knock out one or more of a particular crop at any given time of the year. So if you can have dozens of different things coming at anytime you can, stack one on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other. So you can maximize your photosynthesis in your space.
And another thing to bear in mind, these are all really summer crops, right?
Summer and going into
except for the winter squash. The winter squash.
Well, the winter squash, you want to get those planted and started in the summer.
Right. But you can make another crop in the springtime by planting radishes and other greens, and you might even squeeze in another crop later in the winter.
You might say find a nice low trailing pea plant that you can plant as a ground cover instead. So now you've got a nitrogen fixer early in the spring, and so you have some fresh peas as you go from spring into summer, and then we switch over and start growing a different ground cover crop. You could, if you have enough time, depending upon where you are, get 2 crops of corn in.
Right, and depending on what I plant here, long growing season here, I can get either 2 or 3 crops, in a plot, just depending on what I plant there. Some things do last late in the season, so that's a 2 crop thing. But definitely late winter, early spring, there's a lot of things I can plant to grow that'll make a quick crop, like radishes and lettuces and various other greens, mustard greens, turnip greens, turnips. I'm planting some of that stuff now, collards, and there's stuff that lasts late through the winter. This is time to plant garlic, by the way, at least elephant garlic. Some garlic, I planted garlic as late as November, but I got garlic shoots coming up now. But that's one thing I wanted to add. You were talking about planting garlic if you like a foot apart or something like that to get good sized bulbs. I've actually had really good bulbs come in where it came up by itself early, but in my experience, the longer it grows in the late summer, early fall, the bigger the bulbs will get. So I found out as a way around that. It's just some of it's just how long it gets to grow. So my garlic that came up natural on its own did a lot better than what I planted later. So that's another tip. But the garlic grows through the winter here. So there's something that, you get chickweed in the winter as a ground cover. So there's a lot of stuff you can do to add to what you grow. If you got a ground cover that's edible, you're better off in the wintertime. And you do need something live in your soil at all times.
I've not tried this method myself yet, but I've read about it, and it seems intriguing if you can get away with it. I can't because of my gopher issue. But there are people that grow garlic as if it was a perennial. In other words, they plant their garlic, but they don't harvest it all. They harvest part of it and let the rest of it multiply.
Oh, yeah.
And when we allow it to multiply itself, then you can get what Greg is talking about, the garlic that's that was growing on its own, and it turns out to produce better.
Yeah.
Just, you know, having a little bit of patience with your garden plot, realizing you're not going to get the amazing results immediately right away. We plant a little bit now, we harvest a bit now, we leave the rest of it there, and then it's going to grow as if it was a perennial. It will reseed itself.
America do that, and garlic's got the corms that'll if you don't get all those corms out of the ground, you probably won't. That'll sprout up new garlic plants too. So,
particularly things like the elephant garlic, which
that's what I grow.
Growth habit than say a soft neck garlic.
Right. Good hard neck. All right, guys, I think we've covered a lot of waterfront here. Somebody's talking about cabbage. There's a lot of opportunities there, guys. Just try it out, and you got to see what works for you. I'm not really all that great and wonderful growing cabbage myself. That's not one of my better suits. Cabbage or spinach.
You've got to get out there and experiment and see what's going to grow well for you where you're at, and then select what you're going to do accordingly.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of, but you know, hey, I got a good substitute for spinach that grows wild around. It's called lamb's quarters.
Oh yeah, in a podium. The lamb's quarter. It is actually a relative of amaranth and quinoa, both.
Yeah, exactly. So the seeds are great too. All right, and I've covered that in the video on my channel. And I've also talked about Rosa sharing on my channel. So if you check out, now it may be hard because I cover so much of prepping topics, what's going on in the world. It may be hard to find those videos, but if you go to my greengregs.com channel website, which was originally set up just to sell worms, I've got 3 pages, one devoted to gardening, aquaponics, and microgreens, one devoted to wild edibles, and another devoted to worm videos. And I've populated these with the videos from my channel, and so it makes it a lot easier to find those videos, most of them, than trying to search through my channel.
A lot of videos on your channel.
There you go. I need to add a couple of your videos in there. All right, everybody. I really appreciate everybody being here. Jason, thank you so much. You've been a great guest. This has been an awesome video. I should have had you on years ago. And we got to do this more often. Everybody subscribe to Jason's channel, please. He blow him up tonight. If you're not subscribed to his channel, do it now. Get in there, do it. Don't waste any time about it. Jason is well worth watching, and I really appreciate it. So mods, I appreciate all you for all the work y'all done tonight. And I really want to thank everybody for just coming in here and watching. So with that said, we're going to end the video now, but thank you guys, and have an awesome night.